Hi, this is Linda Weber on behalf of Entegrite LLC. In my earlier video, I spoke about the importance of eating organic. Organic eggs, organic produce, and if you are a meat eater, grass-fed meats. Today's highly toxic environment in which we all live means it's more than extremely important in choosing not to eat toxic-laden foods. I want you to know that though I went fully organic well over 4 years ago, I continued to gain weight. I had a good 50 pounds to lose already, so continuing to gain was not good. Going organic, I merely exchanged conventionally refined sugars and flours into their organic versions. The magic happened in 2016 when I was introduced to the science behind what sugar and flour, organic or otherwise, actually does to us physically, and how these two food-like substances play out badly in our brains. The credit for the hope I discovered and the tools given me so I could realize my lifelong dream of losing all my excess weight goes to a scientist by the name of Susan Peirce Thompson. She has a PhD in brain and cognitive sciences, and she's an expert on the psychology of eating. My weight loss experience has proven to me that all refined sugars and flours are exactly as Dr. Thompson and other scientists define them: chronic, dose-dependent toxins. Those two toxins required of me my whole life to eat more of them than I wanted, even at times when I was telling myself to stop eating it. Learning this truth made me both hopeful and angry because they had been holding my weight hostage since childhood and had all those years been putting a tremendous strain on my overall health. Truth. For within 2 weeks of going cold turkey off of sugar and flour, I was off all over-the-counter medicines plus my prescription blood pressure medicine. The reason was because I was no longer stiff, I was no longer sore following exercise or even prolonged sitting, which was a first. And after 1 week, I no longer experienced hunger pangs, which was a big deal for me. My brain fog disappeared, and I began sleeping so much better. And the weight, it began to release its hold. Turns out that our bodies are not designed to turn against us. Aging does not require chronic illnesses. Our bodies simply were not designed to consume these particular substances ever. Talk about false friends. When all these years my addicted brain told me that they added to my life, I did not know they actually could steal it away. Within 2 weeks, I knew my body was happy without sugar and flour because it responded so beautifully. My brain, however, pretty much hated me. I had taken away its drug of choice. You see, we all have dopamine receptors in our brains, and they are meant to communicate to us a sense of pleasure and a sense of well-being. I now know that sending sugar and flour hits to our brains not only raises our insulin levels too quickly and too high, but also begins to shut down some of our dopamine receptors, which means our brain feels a need for more and more sugar hits just so we can feel normal. It takes many weeks for them to start coming back online. When all of our dopamine receptors are not functioning, some very practical tools and a solid, sustainable eating plan is needed to override the constant food chatter that goes on in the brain. They do come back online, and when they do, life normalizes. I worked the Bright Line eating plan given me, and I have forever lost 69 pounds. And you can too. You, just like I did, and as I continue to do, only have to work the plan one day at a time, one meal at a time. Work it just for today. Don't worry about tomorrow, for it will become today. No sugar, no flour for me today. Listen to just 2 things I learned about the addictive pull of sugar alone. Some of us are simply more susceptible to the pull of addictive substances than are others, which is why some people are successful doing diets that allow for a moderate amount of sugar and flour. But many of us, though, must totally abstain because our brains are just too susceptible to the addictive pull of substances like sugar, flour, alcohol, nicotine. On page 57 of Dr. Thompson's New York bestseller, Bright Line Eating, you can learn how during 2007, which was not so long ago, Dr. Ahmed at the University of Bordeaux injected rats with cocaine until they were totally and completely addicted. Then his team offered the rats a new substance, sweetened water. And whether that water was sweetened with sugar or with artificial sweeteners made no difference to the rats. They were then forced to make the choice between their addiction to cocaine and the sweetened water. The rats chose the water every time. Based on that study alone, Dr. Mark Hyman of the Cleveland Clinic estimates that sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. Dr. Thompson's book goes on to explain that the Scripps Research Institute conducted a similar study where rodents willingly crossed an electrified floor and stood on it in order to eat high sugar foods. The strength of the shock the rodents were willing to endure in order to keep consuming sugary food was at threshold levels right up there with cocaine and heroin addiction. And when the researchers took away the sugar food and replaced it with regular rat food, the rats starved themselves. So what about flour? The jury is still out about flour's addictive properties, but the 3 most addictive foods in America today are pizza, chocolate, and chips. Pizza and chips are flour-based. Pizza is made of bread dough, sauce, cheese, and various toppings, and if you put sauce and cheese on a cauliflower pizza crust, you'll have a tasty pizza. But you probably would not drive across town late at night in order to get a pizza fix like people do for conventional pizzas. It's gotta be the bread dough. Flour is made from a variety of grains, and grains are foods. But since the 1920s, the process used to turn grain into flour turns that grain into an addictive substance, the essence of each grain is removed and the essence is purified, and then it's ground into a fine powder. It turns to sugar within 30 minutes of eating it, and it hits every cell of your body. Even whole grain folks. Even whole grain flour folks. Whole sprouted grains are nourishing, but my experience with flours is that they are addictive. Okay, this has been kind of a rant. It's just that in today's food culture, our brains are taking dopamine hits every couple of hours from sugar and or flour that affects our moods as well as detrimental to our long-term health. Addictive foods simply demand that we eat more of them and more often than we ourselves might choose. And, well, I have to let you know, I also used a variety of therapeutic grade essential oils to help me emotionally and physically while I transitioned from eating flour and sugar every day, that helped me balance it all, especially during the week of detox and the days and the many weeks I dealt with food cravings. I know what desperation feels like. contact me via this website if you want to know anything more regarding my own personal weight loss story. I and others like me also walking a no sugar, no flour health pathway will walk along with you as long as you need us. Thanks for listening. Knowledge is power, and we want you to be empowered.